Hi, I'm Aidan from GTG Coaching, and today I want to talk about breathing drills and their use. So breathing drills is something that's become really popular lately. So I want to go over the reasons why you'd want to use them and their benefit. So the main thing is the effect they tend to have on the nervous system. So we've done videos before on different breathing drills, and Rory did a video on meditation in terms of using that to decrease stress as a helpful tool during stressful situations such as lockdown and COVID-19, and a way of just helping to help people to relax and essentially recover and sleep and rest. So the concept behind the breathing drill is pretty similar in terms of helping you relax. So there's examples that I'm going to give of who's it for, but initially, let's just talk about it from the perspective of a pretty stressed individual. So pretty stressed individuals tend to come into here, like our gym, or tend to see them, and they tend to be maybe shoulders up, shallow breathing patterns, just present a certain amount of traits, and they usually have a hard time relaxing. And that can be most people, to be honest, especially during the current climate, or anyone with a very stressful job, or maybe anyone who just suffers from anxiety. So starting off a training session in a very stressed state isn't a great way to begin. So a breathing drill is basically using your diaphragm to breathe, more or less, rather than more accessory muscle groups, which cause you to breathe up into your chest versus just engaging your diaphragm and letting that breath draw down and back up again. So by working on diaphragmatic breathing, you basically downregulate your sympathetic nervous system, so your flight response, your stress response, and you upregulate your parasympathetic nervous system, which basically just means your rest and digest response. Okay, so you're trying to reduce down stress and increase, I guess, more like relaxation. Why would you want to do that at the beginning of a training session? Well, it's only temporary, okay? It's basically to get you out of that initial very high stress response. So there's multiple different breathing drills. That's the main premise behind really all of them. A specific one that I'm going to use right now or talk about is a 90-90 breathing drill. So a 90-90 breathing drill is focused upon trying to engage your hamstrings and then take the tension out of your lower back and put your pelvis into a more neutral position if you're someone who's very extended. But the main thing is trying to get used to using the hamstrings and the posterior chain and taking the tone out of the muscles in the lower back. That's predominantly it, and that's what the setup is for. So really, it's very helpful for someone who maybe struggles to get out of a certain pattern. So they might be very extension-based, locked in there. They maybe sort of hang out in like passive structures. So they maybe dump their hips forward, shift their weight forward, and tend to just hang out through their lower back. They tend to find it hard to feel their hamstrings in exercises. They maybe stand with their feet turned out, ribs flared, and everything tends to go through their quads or through their calves or something like that. As an example, we'd implement a 90-90 breathing drill. It's probably the most popular one that we would use, and a really good one to start off with. So starting that and helping that person feel their hamstrings, take the tension off of their calves and put their back into more of a neutral position, or a position where they're less likely to just hang off a passive structure, so bone on bone, where they're not really using the musculature of the back, they're more just hanging off of the ligaments and compressing bones together, or bony structures. So the benefit of doing that in a warm-up is once you establish that position, the person can feel their hamstrings, then after that, you can try and use the warm-up to further reinforce that position. So why a warm-up is actually usually called movement preparation. It's preparing you for the activity that you're about to do. I've done a video before on warm-up and why it's important, but that's what you're trying to do, is direct the focus or the force or the effort to the areas that you want it to go. And then after that, go through the main aspect of warm-up also, which is getting your heart rate up. But at that point, you're not stressing. You're in a position where you've not stressed yourself out, and you're trying to get your body ready for activity versus more just a fight or flight response. So that's some really low-hanging fruit, and why a warm-up is extremely important in terms of getting the areas areas ready, and then trying to use something like a breathing drill to make sure that that force or effort is going to the areas that you want it to. Okay, so who is this basically beneficial for? So really anyone who is extremely under high stress, so people that maybe have anxiety, a very stressful job, find it really hard to relax. We use breathing drills with people a lot because we see a lot of people in this scenario and they have a hard time actually just being able to engage their diaphragm and relax into it. Now, high stress individuals usually are also people who get a lot of niggles and pains and feel things, or have chronic injury or injuries. So I put injuries in the inverted commas basically because if it's chronic, it's more commonly known at the minute that that's more of a response from the nervous system versus there actually being a problem there. Now, not always, but it's essentially your nervous system remembering pain, and that pain can increase when you're very, very stressed. So a typical individual that basically suffers from a lot of discomfort and pain goes away on a holiday, the pain disappears, come back and feel fantastic. That would be a try and down-regulate the sympathetic nervous system, upregulate the parasympathetic nervous system, and that's what we're kind of aiming for. But why would I want to do that, Aidan? Well, I'm glad you asked that question, Safety Aidan. So the reason why you would want to do this and downregulate your sympathetic nervous system and upregulate your parasympathetic nervous system is it's only temporary. It's initially, I'd say, the beginning of the session or beginning of a training session. It's just to get you out of that stress response where you may be kind of stuck in that and find it hard to get into a better position, relax down the muscle groups and shut off almost the muscle groups that you don't want to be using or are too tight or too much tone in them from that stress, which would then hinder the training session you're about to get involved in. And the next thing is sedentary individuals. So people, again, who sit at the desk, your transponders, people who are very, very high in stress, always sitting in a similar position all the time during the day, and getting kind of stuck in that pattern. So there's a common saying that if you don't use it, you lose it. So as you're basically sitting in a similar position or in a similar posture all day long and not moving out of that, you begin to lose range of motion in certain areas. And that then can mean that you get kind of stuck in patterns or find it difficult to move out of a certain posture, especially when you're sedentary, especially sitting at a desk. So we would tend to use different breathing drills at that point to help maybe get people out of those positions and tone down some muscle that's maybe just constantly switched on during the day and get them to feel different areas work. It's basically a tool to use. It is not the be-all, end-all, but it can be a very, very helpful one, especially for these individuals. And this one, 90-90, is a really good place to start. So that's the benefit of a breathing drill and why you might want to use one. So if you found this video helpful, then please like it and please share it so other people can get access to it and maybe see some more of the information that we provide through GTG Coaching.